Hey everybody, we are a week into the latest updates for MCP, and I wanted to talk a bit today about Doctor Strange and his leadership and how it's changed. There were a ton of character updates. Don't really feel the need to talk about all of that because plenty of other people already have, and if you're watching this video, I'm sure you've watched those and you've been playing with them. So I'm going to get right into this leadership. Um, it's pretty exciting because like Strange's leadership has always been like a cool concept in the past, but it was always like very inconsistent and tough to make work. So in the past, you had to pay a power. You had to declare that you were using it when you were going to attack something. You pay a power, and then you could change the type of your attack to whatever you want. And then if that attack dealt damage, then you would hex your opponent. You would hex the target model. Um, Now you no longer have to pay a power. You no longer have to declare it before the attack. Now you just do your attacks, and if they deal damage, you can say, "Hey, I want to use my leadership." You're hexed. Um, Still once per turn, so you can't like attack something, hex it, and then attack a different model and hex that one, which for the best because hex is extremely powerful. But it at least makes it so that like you can't call your shot before the attack and then pay a power for nothing. Now you don't have to pay anything, and you can just use it when you know it's going to work. On top of that, if your target is a 5 threat character or higher, then they just get auto hex. You don't have to do damage at all. Um, so it is a lot more usable, a lot more consistent, way less feels bad. So great change overall. I think it's totally usable now. Strange himself got a lot better too. His builder's better because he has a shield pierce on it, which helps him do more damage, which helps him more consistently push enemies, which helps him more consistently generate power. Um, the shield also gives him an extra power from Shield of the Seraphim, so it's a nice bonus on top of the pierce. Um, his heal went up to range 3, so he can more effectively support the team. He can reroll dodge dice with Eye of Agamotto, so he's more survivable against dodges. And he also gained an extra point of health on the backside of his card, so he is harder to kill there as well. So overall, great changes for Strange. I think he's a solid 5 threat now, which is good for the game. Um, so let's focus on the leadership here. Um, what does Hex do? Hex stops an opponent from, or an enemy model from rolling extra dice on attacks, defense, and dodges when they roll crits. So basically, it stops an opponent from spiking their dice, which is very powerful because this game is often a game of managing dice spikes. And that's why cards like Recalibration Matrix are so powerful, and you see them all the time in competitive rosters, is because like sometimes you just need to take away the dice spike that your opponent gets and say, do that again or you lose, or do that again or I live, whatever. So if you're managing those spikes on the front end, then that's a very powerful effect. So um, let's talk about this leadership in comparison to other leaderships. I'm going to talk in like broad strokes here, but most of the leaderships in this game can be put into like certain categories, right? Like Steve One leadership, A Force, Magneto Brotherhood. Those are power leaderships. Those give you power, or they manipulate power in some way to make things cheaper. That give you an advantage over your opponent right away, right? There's movement leaderships like Midnight Suns that let you move a model in a way that your opponent can't, so that you can get to places on the board more effectively. There's dice fixing leaderships that let you re-roll like attack or defense dice, like Daredevil Defenders for attack dice or Web Warriors for defense dice. Um, so like most leaderships in the game give some immediate effect that give you some sort of advantage over your opponent. Um, this leadership doesn't do that. It doesn't do any of those things. So why is that important? Um, that's important because most of those leaderships, especially like talking from a competitive point of view, those leaderships give you a way to effectively influence the board state or do something round one. If I win priority with this leadership, it is not making anything easier for me. I can't use my leadership to go and help me safe grab an objective on the midline. I can't use this leadership to be able to more effectively go into my opponent and start making attacks right away, right? Like if my opponent doesn't put anything in range for me to attack right away, then like it's very possible that round one I am not making an attack, and therefore I am effectively playing without a leadership round one. So that's a big deal because round one is at least like 1/6 of the game, right? Um, so with that in mind, I think that when you're playing this leadership, you need to have like a different state of mind going into the game and like a different game plan than a lot of other uh, competitive leaderships. Um, so that said, what does this leadership actually do to help you? I think this leadership is at its best when you are in the lead, or at least like with parity, right? Because if you have parity, your opponent is going to want to break that parity at some point. So when you're ahead or even with your opponent, this leadership can, over time, make it very difficult for your opponent to flip the script. So I think that the game plan needs to be ensuring that stable game state early. Like it's easier done when you have priority, obviously, to at least have parity, but I think it means you don't want to take unnecessary risks early on that compromise that parity or possible point lead. Like if your opponent gives you the opportunity to start making attacks round one, then that's something that you, most of the time, you probably don't think too much about. Like you probably just take that. But here, like I think you want to take it if you can while not sacrificing positioning or VPs. Because Strange, the longer he takes to get into the position that he wants to be in, the worse it's going to feel. He doesn't have action compression, so it's not like he can move and then make two attacks. He really, like round one, he really wants to get to where he wants to sit and then stay there as best as possible. Excuse me. So, like if an opponent lets Strange make an attack round one, I'm going to take it if I can do that while putting him where he wants to be. Because like being able to potentially push a target into the rest of my team to set up to like dogpile them, or work with if I'm going to have prio going into round 2 to potentially just like take them out and get an extract advantage like that or whatever it is, then I want to do that. But I don't want to sacrifice a VP for the possibility of doing that. Because if I walk up and I whiff and then I don't get the push and then I gain nothing from that, that's going to be a tough hole to dig out of. Like, this leadership is not going to help me dig out of a hole as effectively as it's going to help me maintain a lead. Um, because so going back to Hex, right? Like, uh, if an opponent's model is hexed, or like multiple of their models are hexed, which is going to be the case as the game goes on with this leadership, like I can pretty reasonably predict what they're going to be able to do on their activation, right? Like, if they're hexed and their attack is they have a 4 dice builder, then I can expect that they're at most going to do 4 damage to me in one attack, right? Barring any special rules that get into the weeds, like wilds counting as 2 or whatever. But it makes it very easy to predict their level of output. Especially like if Strange has his power going and he's buffing, his dice or whoever's dice that they're attacking, like, it can be very difficult for an opponent to dig out of a hole. So there's other talking about defenders as an affiliation. There are a lot of tools that like contribute to that sort of game plan too, right? Like, Daredevil was fairly effective at attrition because of like the offensive rerolls that his leadership gave. Strange does not have that, but he has those same affiliated models that had other great tools. Often Daredevil's plan kind of became this like crippling your opponent's action economy and ability to fight back into a game, right? Like, because Shang has staggers and stuns that he can throw out everywhere. Namor can stagger a model pretty consistently once per round. So like when you put those affiliated models with Strange, and you're adding the Hex on top of that, all of a sudden, like when you've got this train rolling of Hex, stun, stagger all over the place, enemy models become very inefficient. So I think you want to leverage that as best as possible while playing from a position of advantage, and look to close out a game like that. That should be like the general game plan in my head, and that's what I've been doing for like the past week. It's been going pretty okay. Namor, I think, is basically in every game piece with Strange, so you're gonna be playing fairly tall, right? Because that's 2 5-threat characters. I'm not a fan of the gems in general, but I think especially here, like, that is already 10 threat. If you add gems on that, you're talking 11, 12 threat. Like, you can't play quite that tall most of the time and expect to win games. So, like, having that 10 threat is probably as high as you want to go for like your necessary core. Shang comes in as often as possible, and I know I'm not blowing anyone's minds with talking about 2 of the best models in the game since they came out almost a year ago now, but they're affiliated, and if we're talking defenders, you're obviously going to be playing them. I'm going to blow everyone's mind further and talk about the other really important model here that no one plays, and that's Baron Zemo. So I think having like a double bubble type thing going on with Strange is a pretty good concept. It makes him very consistent. Uh, you're getting pushes all over the place. He's building power really well. You can order the rolls with Eye of Agamotto to like get the best possible result. You're getting those shield pierces the majority of the time once you've got this double bubble going on. If you're starting to throw out spenders, then you're pretty reasonably being able to expect the activated trigger to crit hit wild when you've got all these reroll options. Um, I will say I have been using the spender less than anything else on his card. Like I think Strange most of the time wants to be you know using that builder, generating power, and just keeping his power economy to buff dice as much as possible and use the heal every round or as necessary, right? And as long as you're doing those double builders with these rerolls, I've found that he has no real issue doing that. I haven't run into any power problems with him, which is surprising given just how power hungry he is. So um, that's like my core game plan is to get like a double bubble thing going with Strange. So this is the roster that I'm currently running in the lunch meet, and it feels fine so far. It's got an Avengers flex because I do think that Doctor Strange struggles on midline secures, and I think there's different ways to deal with that. And maybe I'm wrong. I have not actually put Hulk on the table along with Doctor Strange, so I'm sure like Hulk helps that a lot. But uh, I don't think Strange wants to like spend round one walking up towards a midline. Like I know you can say like, oh well, you stop. You take one move and then you shoot something on the midline and push them. But like what happens when that whiffs, right? And like it's kind of hard to have the reroll thing going there because like you want someone to be up there on the midline, right? So I don't know. It doesn't seem like a great game plan to me, and it seems like there are a couple easy fixes that you can try that are probably more consistent and better in the long run. Like the obvious one is just putting Daredevil in because you're already running defenders, and Daredevil's fairly fine on midline secures. Um, I I say that, but like I've also advocated against anyone playing intrusions in defenders for a long time. I think Daredevil's actually terrible on intrusions. Um, so like it's an option. I think it's just as easy and probably better to just flex to Avengers for midline secures because they're one of the best, if not the best teams on like Wedding Party, Intrusions, and Fisk. Um, and like you're already running Hulk, you're running Shang. I've got Luke in here. So it's a very easy fix. You really only need Avengers Assemble. Currently, I've got reserve members in here for like Okoye or Baron Zemo if they come out with Avengers, but it's a fairly easy fix either way, I think. So, um, but again, maybe I'm wrong. If someone has like some success with Strange on midline secures, please let me know. I'd love to hear about it and talk about it with you. Um, I will say, going back to the Daredevil option. So one question you might have on this roster is like, where's Wong? Because he's the affiliated two threat, right? And don't get me wrong, I have advocated for Wong in the past. I think he's great in defenders. I think he's great in Daredevil defenders. I think putting him and Strange on the board at the same time is probably a real good recipe for just losing most games. Um, I'd love to be wrong about that, but I mean that's like they kind of want to be doing the same thing, right? Like they want to sit on a home secure and stay there. Um, and if you have both of them doing that, then sometimes it's going to be the same one. If you're on like a B map, then maybe it's not, but like that's still 7 threat of immobile, mostly support that isn't going to do much to help you dig out of any hole you might find yourself in. And on top of that, Wong probably isn't making any attacks to hex and cripple your opponent, right? So like that's a 7 threat investment on models that really aren't going to be influencing your opponent that much. I mean, Wong isn't, Strange will, but uh, yeah. So I don't like Wong with Strange. Bottom line, but if you go the Daredevil route, I think your two needs to be Wong because he was always good with Daredevil to start turning on charges right away, to start the aggression with either Shang or Namor, whatever it might be. And so if you're going the Daredevil route, I think you should have Wong. Um, Moving on from that, I do not have Pentagram in this list. If like that would be the reason to run Wong with Strange, I think, is if like you're trying to do some Pentagram thing with it. But um, like still, I just don't like the idea of Strange with Wong. I don't think I like Pentagram with Strange because without the gym, you have no way to guarantee that it's online by round two. Um, and even when it is online, like I did mess around with it in my initial games, even when he has the power to pay for it, I find myself not wanting to pay that power to pay for it because like Strange so effectively uses his power in other ways. Um, so like if I'm paying for Pentagram, then I also feel like I immediately need to activate Strange to build that power back to then keep the dice buffs rolling and like it I don't know, it didn't feel great. So I don't have Pentagram in here right now. Tactics cards wise, I like everything's pretty self-explanatory here. I don't think Cover Me like long term makes the cut. I think it's like a cool concept on most of these tighter secures that I'm running, where like mid game, a lot of enemy models are like in the range bands of Doctor Strange and Hawkeye potentially, and like maybe I'm running a Hulk who has some extracts and he pays for it, and I can start shooting things when they attack Hulk. I don't know. I haven't. I've taken it in like 2 games, and it didn't feel meaningful. Um, Everything else fairly self-explanatory here. Avengers Assemble and reserve members for the flex. Crisis-wise, uh, Deadline, Guardians, and Imkron, they all feel pretty good for Strange, like shape-wise. Um, I think Deadline is probably my favorite. Um, just because like it's fairly easy for Strange to sit on one and then shoot to the other side and be in range for like buffing dice. You can kind of like just control a side of the board. It's kind of like the pentagrams thing where you control two of the secures fairly effectively. Um, but um, I'm a little less sold on Imkron just because uh, like I am playing tall, so I'm often giving my opponent last activation. And like the extra power is potentially nice, but it's kind of awkward to manufacture on Strange because if I can round one, I kind of want to just like walk and shoot with him, um, rather than walk, pick up an extract, walk, um, and then just get the extra power. Um, so I'm a little less sold on Imkron. I just don't know exactly what I would run in that spot. Like Infinity formula feels like it should be kind of cool for Strange's kit, but then at the same time, like it's really a split game, right? Like B maps are like a split game, so you're playing two sides of the board that are kind of independent of each other, and so Strange is not able to effectively support that other side. He can only handle one, so like that feels kind of weird. Um, I think it's probably fine with maybe some different roster options, but this is what I've got right now. Unexpected guests is so extract wise. Unexpected guests is here. I think that's probably like my lock because uh, it's fairly reliable that when like I lose priority, I'm just going to be able to have parity right away because the secure or the extracts are on my side of the board. Um, and I That's one where I probably do want to pick one up on Strange because like as I mentioned, he doesn't have action compression, so like he doesn't really want to be walking. It makes it a little more difficult and awkward for your opponent to like just displace Strange because if they throw him like off of a secure or something and try to ignore him, then like it's mandatory that he be pushed back towards it if he's out of two, during cleanup. So like it kind of makes up some of the ground for that. So um, I like that one. Um, Senators is like it might be a little too fast scoring, but I like it because like I've got all of these characters that are decent range. Strange, Hawkeye, um, uh, Strange. Strange can walk, pick up a Senator, and push. He has range to push. An opposing enemy model that picked up a Senator, and try to tractor them into your team. Uh, if your opponent gives it to you early enough, like there are times where you can just like double attack them with Hawkeye potentially, or like really dogpile on them. Um, so that's cool. Additionally, like if you find yourself in a good game state in the mid to late rounds, to where your opponent really needs to get in. If they have models that are holding Senators, then Strange can attack them and push them further away, and then like they can only walk once with a Senator, so it's possible that you just make it completely impossible for them to get to any of your models that they need to attack. So that's kind of cool. Um, and then Scrolls is just like another one where I should be able to maintain parity fairly easily. Uh, kind of main takeaway here is just no uneven extracts is like my idea here. Um, but like my standouts in this roster, obviously outside of the obvious Namor and Shang-Chi that are fairly mandatory, Hawkeye has been great. Once you've got like the double bubble thing of Namor and Baron Zemo going, Hawkeye is an absolute murderer at range 5, slinging out Hex and whatever conditions you want from the wild. Often early on, I like to give like Hex and Shock to whoever's across the board, and then good luck having them contribute anything meaningful attrition-wise. Um, Plus, he's just mobile. The hook arrow is great. The ignoring cover and LOS is great. And he's not quite as easy to kill with Strange being able to buff his defense. Like he's already 4 defense physical, which is pretty great for a 3 threat. But Strange can at least help out the energy and mystic things that are normally his weaknesses. So I've really liked him. Um, yeah, I mean everything else is. I guess ASM isn't exactly self-explanatory. I don't know about him. Like he's kind of here in case like I really feel the need to guarantee a safe grab on scrolls at like 23. I can take both Namor and ASM so that like I can cover both sides. I can pick whichever one up that my opponent doesn't pick up. That's probably not a really good enough reason to have him in the roster, but it's also like he feels fine on Imkron. Like if I want to go like a 19 of like Strange, Namor, ASM, and Shang. Like it's a fairly decent 19. I can get around to all of the points really well, um, and while maintaining everyone staying like in range of Strange for the defense buffs, and like witty banter is always great. Um, so like there are places that I'm interested in using him at right now, but like I think ASM is probably actually like the least locked character in this roster at the moment. Um, but it's felt good overall. I've been having good success with it. Um, excited to see what other people mess with. Briefly, I did try some other affiliated models. Electra was cool. I think she's totally reasonable and fine with Strange. She gives great tempo early on. With the ham ninjas being able to like just pick up an extract and save an action for someone else. Um, she's fairly mobile, and like the ninjas are kind of cool mid game. Like when they get attacks and potentially like put a hex on a target before Electra even attacks, it can make them easier to take down. Um, so that's cool. I mean, she's got martial prowess, which like isn't the greatest thing in the world, but it's like a semi good synergy with Strange buffing that dice to make her a bit more survivable. Uh, so that was kind of cool. But ultimately, like most of the time, I'm not taking 2 4s, and Shang is just Shang, so she's out. Other 4s I tried, Elsa. I wanted to try her in the gun line double bubble type thing. And she was cool, but like she takes a couple rounds to really start having any major impact. She's probably not attacking anything right away. Um, but like mid game, she started to get really cool. Like once she does have power and she can do her spender and run and gun a couple times, she was pretty cool. I think if you're running her, you're like doing more of an attrition trial with this because like you're searching for the incinerate specifically on her builder probably, but ultimately like she just like Hawkeye's fine for that. Like it didn't feel necessarily like an upgrade from Hawkeye to Elsa, so if that's the case, like she just doesn't seem like she has a spot. She also didn't feel great having the same range as Strange, like being in the bubble, 2 range 4s. Like if your opponent is effectively managing their ranges, like having 2 range 4s didn't feel great all the time. So that that being said, I tried Sable out, and like the range was cool, having range 5 on the 4 threat, but like the same problems that have always been a problem with Sable were still there. Like mobility was an issue. Her power economy was an issue. Um, so it didn't take long to uh, move on from that. I think Hawkeye's just a better option than both of them, and he's a threat less. Um, so that's where I'm at with everything I've tried. I have some splash ideas that I am interested in trying later on. I think Yondu could be a cool model. I think he'd be a better 4 threat than either Elsa or Sable, just because like he's range 5. He'd sling out slow and hex at a distance, and he has the built-in reroll when he's contesting. So like if I am able to bring a 4 threat and not Zemo, right, like if the points work out like that, then like he could be on a side of the board and be fairly self-sufficient um, and reliable. So I kind of want to try Yondu. Like that could be a cool thing. Like if I do try out Infinity, right, like a 17 of Strange, Namor, Yondu, Hawkeye. I can have like a 5 range on both sides of the board. Namor can sit with like Hawkeye. Strange can sit with Yondu, or some combination thereof. And I think that could be fairly effective potentially. So I want to try that. Another one would be Ebony Maw. This he's probably too expensive, like because I'd want the Space Stone on him, so like that'd be a 6 threat splash. Probably too expensive, um, but like one glaring issue with this roster is that like outside of Hulk, I really lack terrain throws, and Maw would shore that up a little bit. I mean, but it's at the same threat as Hulk, so eh. Um, but I mean, it'd just be another ranged character throwing out hex from a distance, and like he could help Strange stay in position with the Space Gem mid game. Um, so like it's something to try, but it's probably just too expensive. And then lastly, I mean, Bucky's always worth a shot. Like I don't know that he does anything any better than Hawkeye probably, but like it's worth a shot to throw him in. So that's where I'm at with Strange right now and his leadership. I think it's got legs. I look forward to messing with it more. We'll see how far I can take it in this current lunch meet, and then see how we mess with it after that. But yeah, if anyone is, if you disagree with, anything like the midline secure thing, or if you have other cool ideas for splashes or whatever, let me know. I am interested to see what people do. And yeah, thanks for listening.